Now, so thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar. Our webinar today is going to be all about Dam Mire and our plans to create a bigger haven for nature and people at Dam Mire Wood. If you just move on to the next slide, Christian. My name's Helen Howe. I'm the membership and the volunteer lead. So I'm really excited to kind of launch what's going to be a monthly webinar series. So hopefully you can join us at the same time, fourth Wednesday of every month, going forwards to hear a little bit more about our work. As I say, today is all focused around Dam Mire, and we're really excited to share our plans for you for that really special site. If you've not been on one of our webinars beforehand, just a little bit of orientation for you. The chat doesn't work in the same way as a Zoom call, but if you'd like to ask any of the panelists a question, you should find in the middle of your bar at the bottom a Q&A box. So if you type your question in there, nobody else will see it other than the panelists. But once we've started answering some questions at the end, your questions will pop up so everybody can see them. So if you type them in the Q&A box, we can have a look through later, and we'll probably just combine questions that are similar, and hopefully we can get round all of the points that you've got. In common with other webinars, we can't see you or hear you, but hopefully you can see and hear us. If you can't, again, please pop a question in the Q&A box. I think that's all you need to know at the moment. We're going to have a little survey at the end as well, so you can share your own thoughts about what you'd like to happen at Dam Mire. But without further ado, I would like to pass over to our land manager, Jan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jan Darrell, and I'm delighted that I am the land manager covering all of our land at Friends of the Lake District. If we move on, Christian, we can just have a little look at where that land is. Some of you may have been to some of it, and some of you may never have been to any of it. So you can see, if you look at the top of that slide, you can see what we're talking about today. That's Dam Mire Wood, right at the top in the Northern Lake District. And then you get a bit of a flavour from that we go right down to the south, almost to the border, with 3 properties over in the west to Eskdale, and over in the east to Little Asby and Maisenworth, East of Orton. So pretty much the whole of the county, covering both the Lake District National Park, outside that, and also a little bit in Yorkshire Dales National Park. Why have we got this land? Well, we own our land for lots of different reasons. Obviously, landscape enhancement and access are one of them. It could be to prevent development, but it can also be things like to show good practice, to try out new things that have never been done before, or to use it for profile raising and engaging people. So each bit of land we own for a different reason, and each one delivers something different to the rest. But overall, they're all beautiful. And if you haven't been, then I'd really encourage you to do so. So today we're going to be talking about Dam Mire Wood. So if you go on to the next slide, Christian, please. There we go. So Dam Mire Wood sits about as close as you can get to the bottom of Blencathra. So it's in the village of Threlkeld in the Northern Lake District, and we've actually owned that site now for 4 years, since 2021. So why have we got Dam Mire Wood, and how did we come to get it? It's actually quite a nice story, and it goes back a number of years. Probably a decade ago, we had a members' AGM in the village hall in Threlkeld, and one of our members, Mike Hambury, who lives in Threlkeld, came up to us afterwards and he said, "I've got a field, would you like it?" And we quite often offered land, and obviously it's very sensitive to people because people have had it for a reason and it can be very personal. So we went to have a look at this piece of land, and it had no means of access to it, and it was fairly small, and it was on its own. So we said, "Thank you very much, but no thanks at the moment." And then some of you may remember some years ago, the owners of Blencathra put the whole mountain up for sale. And that caused quite a furore, and a social media campaign group called the Friends of Blencathra was set up, who they aimed really to raise enough money for, in effect, a community interest company to own the mountain. In effect, they weren't successful, partly because the mountain was taken off the market, partly because they didn't raise enough money, and various other reasons. So the Charity Commission wished to wrap up the Friends of Blencathra and said they had to give the money back to everybody they possibly could who'd gifted it. So they tried to do that as much as they could, and then they were left with some money that they either couldn't give back to people or people didn't want back. So they decided to split that between 5 local charities, and Friends of the Lake District were one. So we really wanted to honour the basic ethos behind that. People had given it to save a mountain and to save that bit of the mountain. So we thought it'd be really nice if we could find a piece of land as close to Blencathra as possible. We didn't just want it to put it into our general funds and it get lost, because people had given it, with passion and for a real reason. So then we remembered the chap at the Threlkeld. So we went back to him and said, that field you offered us a few years ago, is the offer still there? And Mike's a very interesting person. He's a professor of geomorphology and looks at glaciers and everything else. And so he was very concerned about climate change. And he bought this field originally to plant with trees and partly offset some of his own carbon footprint, but also because he wanted that to continue sequestering carbon and doing its little bit for the planet. So that was really important to him. So he was delighted that we'd gone back to him. He'd been planting trees in the meantime, and he said, well, of course you can have it. So that's how we came to get it. And the money that we receive from Friends of Blencathra has been invested in the site. So I don't think anybody could have got quite as close as that again to Blencathra with that money. So we hope those people that didn't get their money back would be really chuffed that we've tried to honour their wishes and go as close as we could. So if we just move on, Christian, please. So we're just going to do a little bit of a quick run through what we've managed to do in the last 4 years, and then we'll move on to the new plans. So when we got the field, it still had no access. So that was obviously going to be problematic, but Mike, being the very generous person he is, also gifted a strip of his garden at the bottom of his garden, and that enabled us to put in a path and a bridge that gave access to the site. As well as that, you can just see there's a track there going through the woods and the grass. We didn't want to put any more formal tracks in because we didn't want it to feel like a park. It's quite a wild place, but we do want people to explore. So people have decided really on their own route just by where they walk, and we have a path that runs right around the site where people can enjoy it and go past other features on the site. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned trees already. They were really important to Mike because they sequester carbon, but also they take up rain and water, and their tree roots also soak up that. So that helps slow the flow of water. Now, some of you may know Threlkeld's been quite badly hit by flooding in the past. So any of these small things together will make a much bigger picture. So although the site is only small, helping to absorb some of that rainfall so that the peak of the rainfall hitting Threlkeld and then Keswick is reduced is really quite important. So while we were doing the legal transfer, Mike and ourselves worked with the West Cumbria Rivers Trust to plant some trees. So they have a project that now is called Resilient Glendurramachin, and it focuses on the Glendurramachin Beck, which is the one that runs down through Threlkeld and ultimately into Keswick, into the River Greta. And the whole aim of that project is what I was just talking about, to try and slow the flow of water. So we approached them and said, could we do something jointly on this piece of land? And again, they were delighted. So overall, we've planted about 1,000 trees on site. And that was where we got the name Dam Mire Wood from. So Dam Mire was on the deeds originally. And because Mike had started and we continued turning it into a wood, that's why, although you may think now it isn't a wood, in another 20 years, hopefully it will be. Next slide, please. Talking again about slowing the flow of water, this is a check dam or a debris dam, they're called, and they're just made very simply out of logs that go across. And the aim of that isn't to stop water, it's just again to slow that flow of water. So you're just reducing the amount of time between when it rains and when the water hits a river, and therefore reducing the peak of flooding. So again, the number that we put in is not going to stop the whole of flooding of Threlkeld, but if everybody did something similar, there's a fair chance it would do. So we've got these on a couple of becks that run through the site, and they're also quite good habitats for wildlife, anything introducing water, and edges is always good for water bugs, wildlife, you name it. Next slide, please. Hedges are another thing that's really good. Again, they slow the flow of water, but you're introducing new habitat. And the other thing you can do with a hedge is connectivity. You can join up woodlands or boundaries so that wildlife has somewhere to go, like a safe place, a safe corridor. So this is a picture of two of the children who were then at Threlkeld School. And we worked with the school whenever we can, really, and got all the kids out, and they planted not only some trees on the site, but they've also helped plant a new hedge, and they look pretty happy. So good luck, and let's hope they come back again soon with all the new work we're going to be doing. Next slide, please. So we'll talk in a minute just about how we've engaged the community, but we've spoken to the community about what they would like, and two of the things they said they would really like to see on the site would be a shelter so they could sit and look at the wildlife and look at the views, and some seats for the same reason. So the picture on your left that we have there, and it has a seat in it, a beautiful handmade seat where you can sit and look right across to Clough Head and down St John's in the Vale. And also in there, we've got a chalk board so people can write up their sightings or thoughts and feelings on what they've seen on the site. And that's quite well used. People seem to like that, and it's good to see what they've seen. That also means that we've got like citizen science ongoing recording of what everybody sees on the site, and we can build up a picture of the wildlife and what's going on. The picture on the right is of a beautiful, again, handmade seat. That went in December, and it went in memory of two of our members, John and Judy Sugden, who gave us a significant legacy. So these are the Burrells who live at Threlkeld Quarry and made this beautiful seat for us out of green oak. And they came and joined us with the family to see and in effect, open the seat earlier this year. So the aim of the seat is that you can sit anywhere you want to look at all the views, so you can see views in all directions, but also that it's big enough to take a class of the school children from Threlkeld, so they can use the site for their outdoor learning and do activities on the table and all the rest of it. And it's brilliant. I think it's probably one of the best seats with the best views in the whole of the Lake District. Next slide, please. So final one really on what we've done. It's all about wildlife. It's all about nature, and every little bit helps. So we put up bird and bat boxes. We've got Bee Hotel on the left, and on the right, we've got one of our staff brave enough to go up a tree to put up an owl box. We haven't got any owls yet, but you never say never. So hopefully one will come and join us fairly soon. Next slide, please. And for every site we get, we do what we call a baseline ecological survey. So that tells us what we've got. So that's good because it shows us the condition of the land, but also it means if there's something special, we know what to do in terms of management for keeping that and not harming it. And rather surprisingly, given it is a very wet site, the ecological report recommended we put in more wetland plug plants. You'd think we had enough plants that like the wet, but apparently they recommended we should have some more flowering species. So this is a picture of one of our volunteers planting those plug plants during the winter a year or so ago. Next slide, please. Key to all of this and all of our properties are our wonderful volunteers. So they engage with us on all of our land and they do pretty much anything we want. They are absolutely and utterly fantastic. So they've been streaming, they've been walling, they've been chopping trees down that go down after storms. And on the right, you can see they helped us with the children of Threlkeld School build a willow den for the kids and everybody else to enjoy. So if you fancy giving it a go at Dam Mire or any of our other bits of land, then we'd love to see you. And our dates for the whole year are up on our website, should you wish to join us. Next slide, please. And just getting towards the end of what we've done on the current land, this was our open day. We had the photographer Terry Abrahams who joined us, and here he is cutting the ribbon with the school children to open the site. We had a wonderful day. The sun always shines at Dam Mire Wood, and the children were there all day. And one of our members who's locally wrote us a poem, and the poem is in the middle there, and we've had that inscribed on a piece of wood that is on the bridge where Terry's standing, so that anybody that goes on the land can see. And the poem came from everybody on that open day. We asked them to write what they felt about the land, what their thoughts and feelings were. And Jo Alberti took all of those and she crafted them into this wonderful poem. So we've got that forever, and it's a testament to a great day. Okay, next slide. Most of this was the children building the den, and on the right you can see some reports from a forest school day they'd had with our engagement officer Kay. They've been with us right the way through the journey, and it's fantastic for them just down in the village in the school that they can have this as an outdoor classroom, outdoor learning, and that's really important in terms of us going forward and trying to keep building that relationship with them and trying to work with them to see what they would like as well. Next slide, please. So even in paradise, things aren't often absolutely brilliant. And just over the wall from us and our current site, paradise, it was not. So the field there came up for sale some years ago, and Mike, who gifted us the land, put in a bid, but unfortunately he wasn't successful. So the land next door is about the same size as our site. It's 1.7 hectares. And when it was sold, there's been quite a lot of consternation from local villagers. There was a planning application for a 4-bedroomed house. There were all manner of rumours about chalets and goodness knows what. You can see the top 2 pictures on the left. An illegal culvert was put in with quite a lot of earth movement. You can see that just above the house. That had enforcement action on it because it had no planning permission and it wasn't regulated. So there was a bit of a feeling of unease all round, and the villagers were frequently commenting on what was going on this site. It looked rather sad, rather unloved, and it was just crying out for a bit of attention, really. So it was put on the market again, and we put in a bid in, and to cut a very long story short, we were successful. So just at the back end of last year, we took ownership of this site as well. And that's the focus of really what we're going to talk about today, and get some views from you about what you think we should do with the land. So next slide, please. Just to orientate you, this is a screenshot of our virtual tour that we've just gone live with. So for lots of our properties now, maybe you live abroad or you live somewhere that isn't in Cumbria, so you can't get to see them. But that's all changing now. We've made virtual tours of all of our land, and they will all be coming up on our website before too long. And that means from the comfort of your armchair, you can go and explore. So all the links are there on our website, and you will get an image such as the one coming up that shows you the boundary of the land, and all those little funny icons are videos. So you can explore, you can move all the pictures around, you can listen to the videos, and it's a fantastic tool to be able to show people who perhaps can't get there or have various different reasons for not being able to walk or whatever. They can still explore the land, and that's really important for us to make it accessible to as many people as possible. So basically, the red rectangle you're looking at in the middle of your screen is the new site we've got. So the current Dam Mire site is to the south, and in the northeast of that picture, you're looking at the car park where you currently access Dam Mire Wood from now. And then you can see the village behind you that leads down to the A66. So it's not a massive amount of land, but it will double Dam Mire Wood as we know it now. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do? We haven't fully finalised all of our plans yet. So talking to the villagers, the school, to yourselves, to our members, all of that is really important for us as to what we will do. But our initial plans, we can tell you that probably we will run with, and unless something really, comes out that people hate them. Unfortunately, as per last time, there is no proper access to this land. So it has a footpath that runs down along Kilnhow Beck through Threlkeld, but because of the illegal works that went on by the previous owner, you can't get very easily from the left-hand side of the beck as we're looking at it, which is where you access the land, to the right-hand side. So at the moment, we're preparing plans for some new access. And if we go to the next slide, please, we can show you a bit more what that is. Okay, so you're looking at the car park on your left where we access the current Dam Mire Wood, and you may park or come through the gate there to go down Kilnhow Beck. So we're looking at a bridge there at the bottom left of your picture that would cross that banking we looked at a minute ago. And that would snake up what is quite a steep banking, but you can't see in this picture. And we would take it up to join the existing path in Dam Mire Wood. So in the top right, you can see like a little square rectangular blob. That is the Sugden Memorial seat that we showed you that you can access via a surface path. So we've looked at whether we could make this path as good as possible for people with disabilities. We won't be able to get it to official standard for wheelchairs, push chairs, and all the rest of it, but we're doing our level best to get it as good as we can. So that would be just a stone chipping surface and flat, so that if you had a motorised wheelchair or pushchair, you should at the very least be able to do a little circuit covering all of the land. Next slide, please. And this, again, just give you an idea of the bridge, very similar to the one we put in the current site, just a large wooden bridge, something inobtrusive that will fit. Next slide, please. So at the moment, we have a fence that divides the two pieces of land, and those of you that are eagle-eyed will notice that that is the hedge that the children from Threlkeld School were putting in. So what are we going to do? So the hedge actually marks an old hedge bank, and part of the ethos of Friends of Lake District is looking after the natural and the cultural history of the site. So, we could take the fence down, we could bulldoze the hedge bank, but we don't want to do that because it's a historic feature. So what we're planning to do at the moment is to take the fence down. We'll relocate the hedge plants because, in fairness, they're not actually doing that well. There's not very much soil there, and they're quite exposed. And then we'll look at 2, 3, 4 crossing points across the hedge bank and the ditch that then fills with water, so it's safe for people to cross. So people should be able to walk freely around the whole site and move between the two individual pieces. And that'll stop us having pressure points and people having to walk into one site, go out, walk into another. Next slide, please. And this is something we've been wanting to do for ages, but none of our properties have really led us to do that. So I've always quite fancied a big pond, a swimming pond, somewhere you can go and look at pond skaters and everything else. And again, we went back to West Cumbria Rivers Trust and the Resilient Glendronach project. Remember, all about slowing the flow of water, holding water just that little bit longer where you can. So we've walked the whole site, and there's actually more of a gradient than you think. So my dream of a great big swimming pond, alas, will not happen, because what you would have to do would be to form such a high bund at the bottom end that it would just look ridiculous. So we've plotted the lower, flatter areas where ponds might be, and we're also looking at diverting the ditch between the two to see if that could form a few ponds. So things have moved on since this picture. We're now maybe looking at 8 or 10 little ponds. Some of those will be ephemeral. Sometimes they'll have water and sometimes they won't, more like scrapes, and some of them may hold water most of the time. So it's introducing a whole new habitat really onto the site that we haven't got already. We've got the streams that run down, but we haven't got standing water. And anybody, that's put a pond in their own garden, you'll know how quickly wildlife finds that, how quickly you get the newts or the lizards, the pond skaters, the water boatmen. It all comes in, and it's all really good habitat. Really helps all the wildlife and the birds, and it's, from a landscape point of view, it's great to look at. People always like watering the landscape. So we've just started plotting physically where we could put the ponds, and again, we're speaking to people. Do they like that idea? Do they think it's dangerous? Is it not worth it? Would they like more? And we'll see what the feedback is. Next slide, please. So the current site is Dam Mire Wood, and it will become a wood in time. The trees are doing really well. So what about trees on the new site? Well, if you go and you look, one of the things that really strikes you is we've got lots of veteran trees of this ilk. So you're looking 100, 200-year-old trees, often knobbly and beaten up, but that gives really good habitat for wildlife, particularly bats. But if you look round the site, all of those trees are a similar age. And what that means is at some point, hopefully not in the near future, those trees will start either to die or suffer windfall in storms or whatever. And at the moment, there's nothing to replace those. There aren't those trees in 100 years' time for people to have that same landscape and wildlife have. So we're looking at doing some planting in wooden cages, probably around the peripheries, possibly on the site, so that, grandchildren, great-grandchildren in the future will have that same landscape, if you like, of veteran trees, old knobbly now trees for wildlife. We're asking people their views on how many more trees they want. Would people like a community orchard? Do they want a more wooded feel, or would they actually like a more open feel, particularly seeing as there'll be a network of ponds? Next slide, please. said, it's integral to us to speak to the community, our members and people who may wish to use the site in future. So about a month or so ago, we held an open day for the community and anybody who was passing. And you can see the pictures on the left that showed people popping in. Our volunteers did a great job of holding down the gazebo because it was such a windy day. And we also got Class 2 from Threlkeld School came out again, and there you can see them doing what kids do, climbing the trees, and they did a number of activities. So we asked the children what they would like to see on the site, and they came back with ponds, flowers, bug hotels, frogs, trees, and water, which was all very good. And then we asked them what they would like to do on the site, and they said play, have lots of mud, go in a bog, do exploring, and do lots of den building. So great ideas from the younger community. If we move to the next slide, please. So we've got a survey which is open at the moment, and anybody can go and complete it. And we asked everybody coming to our open day they could fill that survey in for us. So you've just got 10 or so questions, and it asks you what we've talked about today, really. Would you like to see more trees? What would you like to see on the site? Would you like ponds? Would you not? Do you want some new access? And we'd really love it if anybody on the call wanted to go in and fill in that form for us. If you're a bit worried you haven't been on the site, do have a look at the virtual tour, just have a little play with it, and that will give you a really good feel for the land, and then help yourself. That survey will remain open for some time. We are working up the planning application and various permits we need for crossing the beck and all the rest of it. And hopefully later this year, we will be able to start to put in that new access. That means if everybody agrees with our plans for the ponds and so on, and again, we'll need a planning permission. The earliest we could put those in would be summer 2026, working with the Resilient Glendronach project. And the plan is then we'll do the first phase of access first, try to get the bridge in and the initial path. Then we'll do the ponds, and then after that we'll see where tree planting may fit, where further paths may fit, where the ideas that other people have given us about things they would want, be it a community orchard, a nature trail, somewhere to sit, where they may fit. So we're looking at a couple of years really of planning and work going in gently and just adapting the site slowly over time. And that's it really. That's a quick of a run through everything. So I'm just going to hand you now over to Becca, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about how we're going to fund all of the work that we're proposing.
Thank you, Jan, and hello everybody. Yes, so if we could skip to the next slide, please. Brilliant, thank you. So yes, I just wanted to let you know we are currently running a fundraising campaign to support all this wonderful work that you've just heard about happening at Dam Mire Wood. We are part of the Big Gives Green Match Fund this year, where for 1 week the Green Match Fund is supporting hundreds of green charities, including ourselves, and it gives the opportunity for our donors to essentially double that donation over the week of the campaign. It launched yesterday on Earth Day to celebrate Earth Day, and will be running from 12 noon from the 22nd through to 12 noon on the 29th of April. So we're currently 2 days in and we've got 5 days to go. And the wonderful, fantastic news is so far, as of 12 noon today, we've raised an astounding £7,750 in match-funded donations, which is absolutely brilliant. And I just wanted to take a chance to say a huge thank you to all of you that have donated to the campaign so far. We have a total campaign target, as you'll see, of £20,000. And so we're already over a third of the way there, but we still have a way to go. So please do consider making a donation. Please do share with kind of friends and colleagues and family. And please do kind of go on and just learn a little bit more about everything that we're trying to do here at Dam Mire Wood. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the Big Give Trust, who are our match funders for this campaign. So essentially, any donation that you give, they will be matching that amount as well to the total of £20,000. And if you are eligible for gift aid, you can also make your donation go even further by adding that on as well. So yes, that's kind of really what we wanted to talk about there. Before we move on to the question and answer session, we just wanted to kind of ask a quick question of you all. So thinking about Dam Mire Wood, we have kind of a few kind of points, and we'd love to know which of the following of these points are most important to you. So if you could launch the poll, please, and please do just kind of click on the 3 options that are most important to you. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody that's given a response so far.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for those results. And say, if you're interested in giving more feedback on what we do at Dam Mire, please do go and find the survey, and I'll share that link again in a moment. So we just wanted to move on and give you an opportunity for a chance for you to ask any questions. So if you've got any questions for Becca or Jan, if you could pop those into the Q&A box, you should see something with a little Q&A at the bottom in the middle of your bar. But whilst you're having a think about whether you had any questions about our work at Dam Mire, I'll get started and ask a couple as well, if that's all right. So probably a question for Jan to start with, really, is obviously Becca's talked about the fact that we're looking to raise £20,000 over this Big Green Give Match Funding Week. But how much do you think the work at Dam Mire is going to cost for this new piece of land that we've got there?
Okay, so the Friends have paid out of their reserves for the purchase price of the land. It was ridiculously expensive, came in at development price rather than an agricultural land value. So we're not asking anybody to help us with that. We've already covered that. So what we're looking at help with now is to cover those things we've talked about today, really. So the first one is the access. So it's going to be quite a substantial bridge and initial pathworks that go across Kilnhow Beck. That alone is going to cost us around about £30,000 for the bridge and the access. Just the planning work and the paths has already looks like it's going to come in at about £5,000. Then we'll add the ponds, could be anywhere between £10,000 and £20,000, because we'll have to get diggers, we'll have to get planning applications and make sure that we're not going to cause more trouble with flows of water. On top of that, we'll be looking at incidentals for things like possible seats or shelters, trees in tree cages, and really considering what other people want. Some people will quite like an art trail. or some sculpture. Other people are, no, we definitely don't want any of that. So we'll see what comes back. You know, we really want to engage the kids. Do we want more willow dens? If we do that, hopefully we can use the willow we've got on site, but there may be something else they want. It's a fine line for us between trying to meet people's wishes and our wishes for nature and the landscape, and between trying really hard not to turn it into a theme park or a park. You know, it's a wild place and we want it to remain that way, and it feels that. So in terms of costings, we're probably talking anywhere between 50 to £100,000 over the next 5 to 10 years, to give you a rough idea. And some of that will be eligible for help with, like, the Resilient Glendronach Fund. Some of it won't at the moment.
Brilliant. And a question for Becca. So if it's going to cost 50 to £100,000 to do all the things we'd love to do at Dam Mire, what happens after this week of the Big Green Give? You know, will you still be fundraising for Dam Mire, and how can people get involved kind of beyond this week that we're currently talking about?
Absolutely, yes. This is just the start, I think, because as you've heard from Jan, this is a long-term project for us. So it's wonderful to have had the support through the campaign that will enable us just to start putting a few things in place, which you'll have heard about kind of today. But we will very much need to continue supporting that work in terms of the ongoing land development and management, and also in terms of just how we can support, you know, local communities and visitors to come and enjoy the site. So I'm sure that, you know, as time goes on, you'll see lots of lovely stories coming from us about, first of all, how your donations right now are making a real difference, or the impact that you'll help us to achieve in starting off this new extension kind of program. But certainly, I think there'll be other opportunities to kind of get involved, whether that's through volunteering, whether that's becoming a citizen scientist, and you know, just hearing how I think the site is developing kind of year on year. We should, you know, we could be measuring trees for all I know. We can show you how they grow. So, you know, if anybody is interested, you know, please do get in touch with us. We always love to know how you might be interested or willing to kind of get involved yourselves. It could be coffee mornings. It could be, you know, fun and exciting ways to kind of do your own thing and just make a little bit of a difference in supporting this site.
Fantastic. And a final question to finish off to yourself, Jan. What's the most exciting kind of wildlife that we've seen at Dam Mire, and what would be your hopes from kind of wildlife and biodiversity going forwards?
Okay, so we have a little collection of wildlife cameras that we have in the office, and every now and again we stick them out, and some of you may have seen we've had some fantastic time-lapse videos from High Borrowdale, for example, showing sunrises and when the meadow was cut and